Hey everyone, this is Chris Moss here. So excited to be here with you today. Excited to be able to give you great value, give you great stuff here in just a short period of time. Like I say, my promise here is to help you find $4,000 in the next 40 minutes. Next 40 minutes, that's it. That's pretty much $100 a minute. I hope you're okay with that. Should be the best payout you ever get. So I'm going to endeavor to do that and do as much as possible, give you as great value as possible in the amount of time I have. So grateful that Lisa was able to give me this opportunity to be able to teach you guys and be able to work with her. She is amazing, and I hope you really pay attention to some of the stuff she teaches. I personally have used her services and had her help me, and it's been fantastic. A lot of things I do with my email marketing that people compliment me on happen because of the things I've learned from Lisa. So listen to her; it's good stuff. So I want to talk about right now is really how to create this $4,000 in 40 minutes. Now, this doesn't mean you'll make $4,000 in 40 minutes, like you'll walk away and here's a $4,000 check. But I want you to find that $4,000 that maybe you'll find within the next few months, maybe within the next, at least worst case scenario, within the next year. Whether it's finding about 300 some odd dollars a month, whether that's 4,000 in one lump sum, or whatever it might be. These are things that have worked great for me and for my clients. In fact, my average client has found great money. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of clients, and these are the common things that I've learned from my own personal experience and from helping them that have been the biggest keys. So one thing I want you to truly understand is that cash flow creates freedom. So why is that? Well, if you understand this, is that cash flow creates options, and then options, when you have more options, you feel more free. You are more free. You're able to do more and be more and have more. And what I've realized, it's not about how much money you save. Don't ever believe that you have to save millions of dollars to do that. Because I'll tell you, I worked as a financial advisor 13 years ago, and I did that for 4 years. And if there's anything that I learned over those 4 years, is that the advice that is being taught and everything that you hear on the media, the news, TV, radio, whatever, most of the mainstream advice you're given doesn't work at all. You might be able to get somewhere years, decades, and decades later, but there's no real wealth. There's no real freedom with that. And I'll tell you, I saw that with lots and lots of people. People that have had advice for decades from financial advisors are still feeling trapped. They're still feeling stuck. They feel like they don't have enough and not enough is going on. Unless they inherited a huge amount of money, most of them still feel broke. And in fact, even those people that inherited money still feel broke. And so it's not just how much is in your account. It's that cash flow that's coming in that makes all the difference. Now, I want you to picture this. What would happen if you had less cash flow right now? Close your eyes. I'm watching you. But close your eyes and think about having less. What would it be like to have less cash flow? Is there really less? Say that you're $2,000. All of a sudden, you found out that your income just decreased by $2,000 a month. Now, how would that feel? What kind of conversation are you having right now with your spouse, with your kids? What things you're gonna have to cut out of your life? You know, what's that doing to you? How you have to change what's going on a daily basis because of this? How will you adjust to that? How does that really feel for you? Okay, I would venture to that if you said things like you felt more stress, you might felt like heaviness, like your chest was tight, like you couldn't breathe, you felt stuck, suffocated, whatever. Like you probably felt some sort of bondage, right? That's common for everybody. Now that was only like the next $2,000 less a month. That's 24,000 a year. It wasn't millions, just 20,000 a year. Now let's get out of that, erase that. Whew, yuck, right? Now let's move to the next place. Now say you're compared to where you are right now, your income now increases by $2,000 a month. Now how does that feel? What are the conversations happening with your spouse and your kids? What are you able to go do now that you couldn't do before? What does that feel like? Typically when I get the responses from both, it's almost the exact opposite. They feel more free. They feel like it's like a weight's been lifted, right? They feel like they're able to do the things they've always wanted to do. They can go take that vacation that they keep telling their family that they'll do it someday when they have money, but that someday never seems to come, and this broken promises, and they just see that look of disappointment in their kids' faces, right? You ever heard that, felt that way before? Yeah, now you don't have that anymore. You feel like you have the ability to do all those things and expand your business and grow that more. That's the beautiful thing about cash flow. It's not about having millions in the bank. It's about cash flow, having way more income coming in than expenses going out. The opposite, more expenses than income, bad, right? This is where you feel a lot of stress. Here is where there's freedom. This is where there's power. This is what we're focusing on today. Now, I'll tell you, I mean, I've been able to I've seen both extremes. I was actually able to retire at 28 years old, 4 months after leaving being a financial planner. I said, I'm not going to teach it anymore. It doesn't work. I feel like a liar and deceiver. I quit. Now, I'll tell you, I actually went and did the opposite. I did the opposite, and it was much, much better. I'll talk about that in a second. But I'll tell you, on the flip side, I've also been in a really hard financial place. This is why I can't judge anybody. In fact, I don't think I've ever met anybody that's been in a worse financial situation that I've coached personally than what I've been in. During my worst period of time, I was in the hole $16,000 a month, meaning my income was about $5,000-$6,000 a month, but my expenses between my personal and my business were $22,000 a month. $16,000 short every month. Savings becoming depleted. My credits run up and being maxed because I'm trying to make ends meet. I figure I can just work my way out of it, and pretty soon I find myself in a really big hot mess. Right? It was not fun, but by a lot of things that I've learned from cash flow, I was able to reverse that, pay off over $900,000 in debt in just 3 years. Just 3 years. That was it. And get in a place of positive cash flow. I'll tell you, that's way more fun. Feels great. And it's not just worked for me, but it's worked for my clients too. My average clients freed up $33,000 in just the first year alone. $33,000. I would venture, just looking at a lot of the clients I've had and looking at over the time they've been able to apply this, because a lot of this is year after year type of cash flow savings too. Both money made versus money spent as well, right? Again, that difference in between where the freedom is. I would say easily we've saved people that I know of, I've worked with one-on-one personally, between $50 and $60 million. This is not even counting the people that, just like yourselves, that maybe I never meet, I never get to see or talk to. I know there's millions there too that I can't even account for. And to me, that's small beans, because I'll tell you, my mission in this company, Money Ripples, I call it Money Ripples because I want to create a ripple effect. A ripple where it starts with you as the individual. Because if you can create financial freedom, you can create real prosperity and abundance in your life right now, that's going to ripple effect. You cannot help but bless people's lives when that's the case. Because then you'll start to affect your family, your spouse, your kids, and not just your kids, but now you're breaking generations of scarcity to where it goes to generations beyond you, for your grandkids and your great-grandkids and their kids and beyond you that way, creating a legacy of abundance and prosperity. And then not only going from there, but also outside of your family, to your community, your friends, your town, the state or province you live in, even the country and across the world. This ripple effect happens as this prosperity grows. This is the driving force behind my business, helping you become a great steward and be able to have greater freedom and prosperity right now, so you can be able to live your life the way you love to live it, and you can have greater freedom and happiness today, not 30 or 40 years from now. Are you okay with that? Sorry, that was a little bit of a half rant there, but I'm telling you, that's what I'm all here to do, is that I want to see that ripple effect happen in your lives. But you've got to understand, keep principles first and the strategies to follow up. And that's what I teach, is it's principles first, strategies second. So I want you to take a look at this picture here. And what do you see? What do you see in this picture? How do you see a guy that's kind of leaning back against a log, right? He's kind of standing against a log, looking out over a lake. Some of you might see a cliff. I actually thought it was a cliff, and I started freaking out. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to just tilt your head to the right, just 90 degrees. So just tilt it like this. Now, I want you to look at the picture now. Now tell me what you see. Do you see a guy laying on a log? Not leaning against it, standing up, but actually laying on the log, looking up into the sky. See those trees? That's not a reflection. That's actually trees going upward. He's laying on a log. This is just taken 90 degrees, the different angle. See, perspective is everything. How we see things is what we take action on, and it can be very, very different. And you'll notice that what I'm teaching here is not different from other people. It's the exact opposite. I teach very opposite of what you hear in the mainstream. And that's why it works. As somebody asked, they said, Chris, what you teach is completely different than what I've heard. I said, and that's why it works. Because if the old, stale, boring financial advice would have worked, wouldn't have worked by now. Wouldn't people be better off financially today than they were 30, 40 years ago? Or are people worse off? Even with more knowledge and even doing things the way that they're taught to do. Because you're taught your whole life to save and suffer and scrimp and do all these things just to try to make ends meet, and it doesn't seem to work well, does it? And this is where I like to quote Seinfeld. There's an episode called Opposite George, where George Costanza, the big loser of the show, right, he realizes that he does things the same way every time and he gets bad results. So Jerry says, well, listen, if every instinct you have is wrong, well, then the opposite would have to be right. And so George decided to do the opposite. So George, for example, he said, you know what, I'm going to order a different sandwich. I'm going to mix it up. And then George sees a beautiful woman at the bar. And they say, well, you got to go talk to her? No. He says, wait, no, yes, I will. Because you know what? Old George wouldn't talk to her. I'm going to go talk to her. So he goes up to the bar. He says, hi, my name is George. I'm 36 years old. I'm unemployed. I live in my mom and dad's basement. And the woman slowly turns to him with a big smile and says, well, hi, how are you? And they meet each other, and all of a sudden he's like, whoa, it's working. And the whole episode's about him getting the results he always wanted but never would, because he just started doing the opposite of what he would normally do, right? And that's so true with money. Money, everything that's been taught has pretty much been the opposite of what works. And I learned this from millionaires. This is why in 2006 I was able to retire at just 28 years old, 4 months after I quit being a financial planner, and I only had about $2,000 or $3,000 in my savings account. I didn't have a lot of money, but I'll tell you, when you do the opposite and you focus on cash flow instead of just accumulating money, focus on acceleration, not accumulation, things happen. So let's talk about those perspectives, because there are really 3 perspectives here. There's the spender, the saver, and the steward. Spenders and savers are in scarcity. Spenders, for example, they get a bad rap, but they're really not any worse off than a saver in a lot of ways. Spenders got some things right. But the problem with spenders is that a lot of times out of fear, for example, they're worried that if they don't spend on something that they like, it'll get spent on something they don't like, so might as well spend it now on something they do like. They might also spend money because maybe they grew up with somebody really cheap. You know, they might have a really cheap parent or somebody in the house that made it really hard for them. You know, all those kind of things, right? So there's lots of reasons why people spend. Now, if you're Spenders Anonymous, if you're on the far extreme, you really need to focus. And you know what? And some of that financial advice might even be good for you, some of the mainstream stuff, to help you gravitate more towards a saver. Because when you come to the other end of scarcity, a lot of savers, which is pretty much what all financial advice is out there, is all from a saver perspective. It's always about not spending money, saving everything you can, never feeling like it's enough, and constantly scrimping, saving, sacrificing, suffering. Don't spend a dime, invest in stocks. Hopefully someday you'll be able to do what you love. Someday you'll be able to retire, but you'll never save enough. You'll never feel like you have enough for retirement, and you'll just keep going and going. Does this sound familiar to you? This is what a lot of people are doing right now. Savers, now I've noticed it's about 50-50. There's usually about 50% savers, 50% spenders. There's a lot of people out there saying most people are spenders. I don't agree with that, especially if you're a business owner. In fact, I'd probably say it's about 60% saver, 40% spenders that lean that direction. Both have some sort of truth to it and some good to it, but they both miss the mark, right? Because you just never feel financially free in either of those 2 places. But if you're a steward, you come in the middle, if you take the best of the spender and the best of the saver and put them together into one, you'll find a steward. See, stewards are willing to use money like the spenders. They're willing to spend money and use it. But like the savers, they're also willing to be wise with it too. They want it to grow and increase. Stewards always want things to grow and increase and improve and beautify and magnify and everything becoming better. That is what a steward does. They want to make everything grow bigger and better, right? That is the key that you want to look at. This is the one mindset that's actually in abundance, because you realize there are true principles and you're looking to do what you've been meant to do. You are meant to be on this planet to make things better than the way you came here. We are meant to all improve upon the things that we're given. We're meant to make better the money that we have. Whatever amount that is, we make it better, improve upon it, make everything look better. Even if it's from a physical standpoint, how do you make it more beautiful? How do you improve people's lives? How do you bless people's lives? That is the focus of a steward. And I can guarantee you that a lot of you are in business because of that reason. Not just the financial reasons. A lot of you are in it because you have a passion and a mission, and you know that what you have can serve and help people. And that's exactly where we want you. But see, if you're in a spender paradigm, you'll spend all the money before you have a chance to use it to make it better. If you're a saver, you'll never want to spend money, and you'll never grow and expand. You'll get it to a certain point, and you'll just get stuck. You'll stay small. And people's lives will be missed and will not be blessed because you did not want to use that money. Stewards want to use money. Money is meant to be used. It's meant to be used in a way that's exchanged with people and be able to make things better and improve and increase the ability for you to produce value in people's lives. That's the key of a steward. So those are some of the principles. There's lots of principles here that I explain more in depth when I do like my events and so forth. But this is just a small, tiny tad bit of it. So let's talk about some of the strategies. Let's talk about how we can find that $4,000. One is start tracking your money. You cannot increase anything that you do not pay attention to. Whatever you pay attention to will expand and grow, but whatever you ignore will leave you. Let me say that again. Whatever you put your attention towards will expand and grow, but whatever you ignore will leave you. This is why you got to start tracking money. You got to look at what's going on. You got to know how much is coming in and how much is going out. You got to know what's happening with your money, and do this, I recommend, on a weekly basis. Worst case, bi-weekly, twice a month minimum, just to know where you're at so you can be proactive and start to roll with the punches, both in your business and in your personal life. So Mint.com is great for your personal life. Everything downloads into one place. I love systems. I love to be ambitiously lazy. I don't like to do more work than I have to do. Therefore, Mint.com is fantastic because it does it all for you. It even categorizes a lot of things for you. You just have to make sure you go in at least once a week or so. Make sure that the categories are correct with the transactions. Make sure you know where your money is. Make sure you know what expenses are coming up so you're okay. And all that can be done for you. I actually timed myself on this tool. It took me about 4 minutes and 17 seconds from logging in to logging out and seeing a whole week's worth of expenses and income and everything. Be able to feel like I'm caught up on my money and know what's going on. That's it. 4 minutes a week. Even between that and your business, I recommend QuickBooks for business, which does very much the same things. But QuickBooks for business and then Mint for personal, even between the two, 10 to 15 minutes is not unrealistic. Now, if you have a huge business, maybe you might need somebody to help you with this. I love investing in systems, and I love investing in people, and sometimes both. And so if that's the case, maybe you do that. But for those of you that are maybe your business is at a pretty manageable point, this is something you can do very easily on your own. You don't have to necessarily pay a bookkeeper to do, unless things really are starting to get really busy and crazy, and you just need to hire that out, which is fine. But I'm telling you, 10 to 15 minutes a week is all you need, especially if you get on the same page as your spouse. This is huge. This really helps a ton. I'll tell you a few stories. One woman from Silicon Valley, California, her and her husband both worked in a business. They made $250,000 a year doing their technology business, but they were broke every month. You know what we found out? We found out that when she finally got me the numbers, because she said she was too busy, right? You ever said that? You're just too busy to figure all this stuff out? She said that, and we found just eating out alone, $5,600 a month eating out. Between that and groceries and everything, it was over $7,000 a month just in food costs. That's over $80,000 a year. And I said, listen, let's cut back the eating out. Let's get it down to only $1,000 a month. Wouldn't that be great? Only $1,000. We cut it back to $1,000, right? We did that, and guess what? She ended up having we freed up that money plus the groceries, and then we found some money in taxes and other expenses too, and the next thing we know, we found about $75,000 for her over the course of a year. That's pretty awesome, right? And by the way, if you ever say you're too busy to do things with your money, I will guarantee that you'll find the $4,000 alone right here. Because most people, if they're a business owner and they're saying they're too busy, will find probably at least $500 a month pretty easily. I've had another client where we found $1,500 a month, and she was the same way. I'm just too busy. I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I have to keep working to make money to do this. Well, that's because you don't control the money. You don't keep what you make. It's like having a bucket with you fill up, and then a hole's leaking out of the bottom. So you're just busy trying to fill up that water. Rather than saying, let's plug the hole, and boop, okay, cool. It fills up. We can relax and be better. That's key. You have to remember, like Ben Franklin says, he says, beware of little expenses, because a small leak will sink a great ship. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. And I'll tell you, sometimes I get people where I work with clients where we look at this stuff. It's the first thing we look at in the process is the cash flow. And we'll say, well, sometimes just a little bit here. Maybe it's $50 a month here, $100 a month there. Maybe it's $20 a month here. And people say, well, that's not so sexy. Well, maybe not. But when you start to add it all up, it can be huge. Oh, and here's the key. You can do it from an abundant standpoint. You don't have to do the whole latte factor. You don't have to be cheap, live only off rice and beans. In fact, my ebook is called Beyond Rice and Beans because I want you to enjoy life and be able to have your money in control and have a successful business. It's having your cake and eating it too. Isn't that the way it should be? So that's number one. Number two, selling assets. This is a big one. A lot of people get attached to stuff. For example, I had one client where he had a condo that he wanted to save for his son. His son was 11 years old, to save for him when he got to college. He was hoping to start paying down the mortgage eventually to the point where that could be the rental property that he lives in and rents out. And we're looking at their situation. I saw 3 credit cards, about $40,000 of credit cards that he was paying $1,100 a month on. And I said, well, wait, there's this house here that's got equity. What about this house right here? He said, oh, that's the investment property. Now I want to keep that. That's for my son. I said, well, let's be honest here. What's your net profit per month on that house? He said, I net about $100 a month. And I said, let's look at it this way. If you could take that property, sell it, he actually had $60,000 of equity, so you get $60,000 out, use $40,000 of that to pay off a credit card that will save you $1,100 a month. You made an extra $1,000 a month, and you still have $20,000 left over. You could go put a down payment on a new place if you wanted to. And he said, yeah, but what do I have to show for it, Chris? I said, stop being attached to stuff. Like, this is costing you your freedom. And you have to understand, he was working like 60 to 80 hours a week, and his wife was also working 60 to 80 hours a week. They were working like mad, just trying to bring in like $10,000 a month. That's just not worth it. I said, man, if you free up this $1,000 a month, this will allow you to relax and free up, and I bet you'll probably make more money too. In fact, I've seen that happen a lot of times. I had another client where he had an IRA. He had $500,000 sitting in that IRA doing almost nothing. The market was making a little bit of money on it, but not a lot. I mean, let's be honest. $500,000, if you make 5%, you're pretty happy, right? So 5%, that's like what, $2,500. Well, no, that's $25,000, if that, right? And so $25,000 a year. And I told him, I said, listen, if you take 1,000 of this, 100,000 of this, 100,000 of this, that you're hoping to make 5,000 a year, maybe 5,000 a year. If we take that 100,000, we can actually help you free up $50,000 a year by paying down some of these loans and stuff and refinancing a property and everything. He said, oh, yeah, but Chris, how am I going to retire? Because he was 62 years old, living in Minnesota, right? Minnesota, you got to say it right. Living in Minnesota, and he's 62 years old, saying, Chris, how am I going to retire? And we went back and forth. I'm like, wait, $50,000 from 100,000. That's a 50% guaranteed rate of return. And he wouldn't get it. And finally his wife smacked him, because it's always the women that get it first. She said, honey, you still have $400,000 in this retirement account. This is going to make all of its money back within 2 years, and then after that, it's all gravy. And he finally said, all right, I'll do it. He put the faith forward. He did it. You know what's cool, though? Not only did he free up that $50,000 a year, just like we said he would, but he started relaxing his business. He made an extra $1,000 to $2,000 a month. In total, he made about $70,000 that year. Can you imagine how much happier he was, especially after a business that for 3 years had been kind of spiraling downward to the point he was just paycheck to paycheck? That was worrying him a lot, especially from a saver mentality like he was coming from, right? That is huge. Selling assets. I one time, when we were going through our toughest times, we sold about $2,000 worth of stuff, and that helped carry us through. I even sold off my favorite speakers. They were in my old house that I had several years back. I kept it for 4 years, thinking, well, maybe someday we'll move and maybe we'll use it, because it didn't work with the new house. The speaker system didn't work with the design and everything. And so eventually I just said, you know what? It's just sitting there in the garage doing nothing, just storage. Let's get rid of it, sell it, make use of it. Because my mantra is, if you're not going to use it, lose it. Either sell it, donate it, and get the tax write-off, or just give it away to somebody who will use it. I'll tell you, when you do those kind of things, more will come to you, to your surprise possibly. You'll actually find out more will come back to you. So I did that, got the $300, and now that $300 I can go and use today, because the steward wants to figure out how to make that money work for them right now. Does that make sense? So let's talk about debt. I've already touched on this a little bit. Debt. Here's the key thing about debt. Don't fear it. Do not fear debt. Respect it. That's the abundant way to look at it. It can be a great tool or it can be a great weapon, depending on how you use it. You've got to be careful with it. But do not fear debt. Fear and getting angry and all this kind of stuff about debt does not work. Yeah, you might pay off your debt, but you will not be financially free. I've had so many people go through certain debt type of programs where they tell you to get angry about your debt and to live off rice and beans until you get debt free. And then they come to me saying, okay, we did it, but we don't feel really any better. Sure, we don't have these payments, but we still have 70% or 75% of our income that was being used on expenses, other expenses anyways. So now we're just spending less, but we're still spending money. And again, they're coming from that saver standpoint, and that's making it hard. They're like, Chris, what do we do next? And so we talk about how to make more money too, not just do that. But I'll tell you, debt is not inherently bad. Debt can be bad, and I've seen the destructive things with debt, both in my life and other people's lives too. Don't get me wrong, but you got to be wise if you're going to use it. I love business debt. I think business debt, home debt, sometimes for car loans, and even for other things like education can be great returns on investment if you do it right. Again, it comes back to that stewardship. How are you as a steward and be able to make more money with that debt? Because if you are going to use debt, it's like, I think of it like an ATM. If I put a dollar bill into that ATM and it kicks back out $2, I'm going to take every dollar I have and start throwing them in. In fact, I might even start borrowing people. It's like, hey, I want to start putting in multiple time at a time here. I want to put in $100. Can I borrow $100 from you to put this in? Because I'll get $200 back out. And start doing that. And heck, if you give me $100, I'll pay you $120 back. Of course, they're going to say yes, and I'm going to think it's awesome because I made $80, right? For free. That's where debt can be good when it's used productively. But when you don't use it productively, it can be bad. Now, many of you probably do have loans and things like that that you're currently worried about. Here's the thing I've learned about debt. It's not the amount, it's the payment that's the key. How much you pay every month, and especially if you have to pay it for a long period of time, stresses you out, doesn't it? I mean, isn't that monthly payment, that monthly commitment, a stressful thing? That's what we want to avoid. We don't want that kind of stress. Now, granted, if the mortgage payment that you had was $1 a month, would you stress so much? Of course not. You might say, well, I still owe a lot. But, I'll tell you, even the biggest of savers, even hoarders, still don't care as much about the owing part as they do about the monthly income or the monthly expense of the mortgage or that monthly payment of a loan payment. That's what's killing their peace of mind, not the amount. It's the monthly payment. Having to keep paying that, feel like you're stuck there, right? So here's the one key thing. Ignore the interest rate. Do not pay attention to the interest rate as much as people say you should. Look at the payment. Pay off the lowest balance with the highest payments. Not always the lowest balance, but the one that has the lowest balance, the highest payment proportion. Because, for example, if I had two $5,000 loans, one was only $100 a month and the other one was $500 a month, if I had $5,000 and I could only pick one or the other, naturally, which one would you pick? You pick the $500 a month, right? You want to get rid of that. You would say, hey, $100 a month, I can pay that off after I pay off the $500. But if I get rid of that $500, especially when your income is like this as a business owner, it goes up and down, it's really hard when your payments are all the way up here and you dip down. This is where stress is, right? You freak out, you're like, it's just like that. But if you can get those monthly payments down here, then in your business like this, you don't feel as much. You actually feel okay, don't you? Getting your bottom line is getting it down, getting those expenses down are key to helping you. So getting those down to a manageable place. This is why I don't mind people refinancing their homes. Even with that guy who was 62 years old, refinancing for 30 years. If he paid minimum payments, he'd be 92 years old if he lived that long, which he could. But that's not the point. The point is how do you free up that cash now, be able to use it? And if you can pay yourself that difference, pay that money, it's big. And I'll tell you, I put a lot of money in equity in homes only to watch the markets change and not be able to get that money back out. I'd much rather have that cash buried under my mattress or in my backyard or under my pillow than I would just putting it into a house where I can't get access to it. So be careful how you pay down debt. So when you're going to pay it down aggressively, make sure you have some savings. Make sure you also got some ability. Like if you're going to pay off credit cards, pay extra to those, but don't pay extra to car loans, student loans, mortgages. Pay those off in one check. Don't pay extra to them every month because you can't get that money back. And banks, definitely, they will not give you that money back if you need it. They only give you money when you want it, never when you need it. Taxes. Let's talk about taxes. Now, I'm not an accountant, so I can't tell you what to do with taxes. But let me share you just a few quick things that this alone could save you more than $4,000 in some of your situations. One is, of course, make sure you, like you are, same thing with tracking the money. Don't commingle your funds. Keep them separate, business and personal separate. That's key. One way that I've done this is what I call bizcations. I love taking vacations, and I love it when I can do it as a business write-off. Now, the way to make it a business write-off is you have to be doing some form of business on more than half the days over that period of time. So if you go on vacation for 7 days, 4 of those days have to have some business activity during those days. It doesn't have to be all day long, but there has to be some business activity. And it might be you visit potential clients or even current clients or customers that you have. It could be studying other companies or other people in your industry. It could be studying, going to Disneyland. I tell people you can write off Disneyland if you really study it well, take notes, and say how can they create a great experience? How do they use smells, like with foods and things like that? How do they use sound and music to influence you and sights and everything else? How do they attract you into the park and create an experience for you that people want to keep coming back for more? How could you apply that to your business? All kinds of ways that you can write off things. And you can write off your travel, all your mileage, you write off your lodging, your food, and it's awesome. And that's fun. I mean, you can get a lot of great write-offs there. So that's one. Two is paying your kids. A lot of times you can pay your children. You can pay them, and there's no age limit. If they can be used for a job at their age, they can get paid a reasonable wage for it. So for example, even a baby, could a baby be used in your marketing ads? Could they be used as a model for books or something that you're writing or pictures or things that you're doing? You can pay them a decent wage for your area and make it count as a write-off. Cool thing is now you're paying your kids. That money could go to a college fund. It can go to paying for their clothes or sports or schooling, whatever it might be, and now you're actually getting like a write-off for it because you can actually pay them up to almost $6,000 a year if done right and pay no tax and get a write-off for it. For some of you, that would be huge. I had one client. She actually has 6 kids. I only have 5. I know only. I have 5. She has 6. She said, wait, are you telling me I could write off over $35,000? I said, yes, if, again, talk to my accountant. I'm a CPA on my team here, but if there's a justifiable wage for it, then yes, absolutely. And heck, even if they go over that, still their tax bracket will probably be less than yours. Might still be worth it. And so she's like, oh, that was awesome. That was well worth everything we did as a client. In fact, I think she'll probably save between $10,000 and $15,000 in taxes right there. I have another client where we're able to save him just on how he pays himself through the business, and even doing things like corporate rent agreements and whatnot. Corporate rent agreements will usually save somebody between $3,000 and $6,000 a year, depending on their tax bracket. So paying for the use of your home domicile, like what I'm doing right now, right? So using a day use of that. Also, like I mentioned, how you pay yourself through your business. All kinds of ways you can save money. I had one guy that he knew that he was overpaying on taxes. He just didn't know how. Sent him my CPA. I didn't even have a first meeting with him yet because I was on vacation, doing a bizcation, right? Sent him my CPA. By the time I came back, he said, I already found $10,000. We more than paid for your program. I said, sweet, good job. Way to go. I mean, that's kind of cool stuff. And if you're at the end of the year right now, you've got almost no time to save that. And I'll tell you, most everybody is overpaying on taxes. And if you have an accountant that didn't teach you this stuff, like I've been teaching you, you probably have a passive accountant that's costing you way more money than you hope. And by the way, if they're telling you to buy IRAs and you're a business owner, you should probably fire them. Because there are no tax savings for a business owner with an IRA. I mean, you're writing off money, you're getting a quote-unquote write-off, but you're really just not taking income, and you're deferring it to a later date when taxes will probably be higher. Why would we do that? It just doesn't make sense. Lots of ways to save on taxes that again, talk to an accountant, but most likely your accountant probably is passive or isn't teaching you everything or doesn't know everything, and you're probably costing you money right now. Now, the last one is income. How do we create more income? How do we get more money coming in? Here's the key principle that changed my life, that got me to retire when I was 28 years old, is that dollars follow value. Look for the win-win for people. How do you create value for people? How do you add value? How do you serve them or solve problems for them? That's the key. Now, many of you have a business where you're trying to do this, but you're probably asking the question of, well, how do I make more money in my business? Stop asking that. Instead, ask, how can I serve more people with more value? Or reverse it. How do I offer more value to more people? How can I give them what they want? Are you listening to feedback and trying to give them what people want? My whole cash flow process came because I was listening to people and be able to understand that they're saying, Chris, I want to hire you, but I don't know where to find the money. And I said, listen, I know what it's like to get creative with my money. I bet you I could find it. And I would. And pretty soon that became a process. I'm like, wait, people really want this. They don't care about putting money away into savings if they're just paycheck to paycheck. They want to do that, of course, but they want to figure out how to increase their cash flow now to live the life they want today and have more in the future. It's about prospering more now and tomorrow. And then all of a sudden that shifted my business and the thing exploded. I started getting referrals like crazy and people wanted to promote me because of that. So find more ways to create income. Do not try to create multiple streams of income in different places that distract you, because if you do, you watch your overall income go down. But look for ways to build that up. And I can go on for hours on this subject. But just know that when you're looking for ways to do that, how can you create more systems? You don't need to spend more time, but are there more systems you can put into place? Could you leverage other people? I love it when people come to me, they say, Chris, I want to leverage you as part of what I offer for people. Can I somehow include you into that package, or can I somehow refer people to you? And we create an affiliate agreement, which, by the way, that's how I retired at 28. I was really good at connecting people and creating relationships, creating a win-win-win scenario, where I was creating a win for the person that asked me who to find. They were trying to find somebody. I know that person because I knew people are good quality, connect them together, so it was a win-win for them, and that was a win for me because I would ask that business owner for a referral kickback. And so I made sure I did it within reason. Like, I can't always get a referral fee from everybody. I can't get a referral fee from attorneys or accountants, but I can get referral fees from normal business owners. And I did that, and that's actually how I was able to retire, making an extra $4,000 or $5,000 a month back in 2006, and I was only working about 3 hours a week, just because I was sending referrals here and there. Not even a lot, just a little bit. But it was enough that it really created a lot of value for people, and everybody was happy. Everybody was prospering because of it. And I think that's the key behind business. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, Chris, the reason I'm having struggles with money is I just don't want to feel restricted. I hate budgets. Well, so do I. I don't like budgets either. In fact, I prefer to call them spending plans, because money is meant to be spent, not to be hoarded onto and held with a tight iron grip. And they're like, well, I don't want to feel restricted. I'm like, well, no, you don't have to be. Yeah, we got to be a wise steward of your resources, but you don't have to be restricted. Well, Chris, I just don't like numbers. I really hate dealing with numbers. Guess what? So do I. I'm good with numbers. I just don't like them. I like systems. Like I said, I like to be ambitiously lazy. How can I do things as easy as possible where I can focus on doing what I love and the money is being managed and controlled? You've got to have systems in place to do that. But the real question is this, are you really committed? Excuses aside, are you truly committed, especially going into the new year, are you truly, really committed to making a change in your life? Because here's what's got to happen. I mean, you got to know what's going on with your money. You got to know your numbers, that law of attention. You put your attention on it, it can expand and grow. You can improve it. If you ignore it, it's going to get worse. Plain and simple. You keep ignoring it. How long do you think you can keep ignoring your money before things affect not only your money and your home life and stress there, but your business? What are you missing? What leaks are happening in your life right now with your money that's limiting you from being able to expand your business and bless more people's lives? That's the real question. What's your mindset around money? You gotta shift it. Like I said, rich people don't think differently, they think the opposite. Do the opposite, right? Be willing to do what's right for your family. Don't hire that accountant that's costing you thousands of dollars a year just because that person's a nice person. You want to look at your family first and foremost. What's going to bless your family the most and help you become financially free? And be willing to do things differently, like I mentioned before. The cool thing is, I get people that are really smart. Like Alyssa here from New York, who's a business coach. Brilliant person. It was cool to get her husband together on the same page, and they found an extra $2,300 a month, and that meant a world of difference to them. Made her a raving fan. The way we were able to do that first is we do a money leak evaluation. How would it be if someone could look at it? Because a lot of times we don't see our own issues. Like, we don't like to look at our own money, or we don't know what to look for. To have somebody else look at it without an emotional standpoint and say, well, hey, it's just here, here, and here. You're just overlooking it. It's the very things that we don't always see that makes the biggest difference. Money leak, we actually have a money leak evaluation that we do, $297, that allows you to be able to really have somebody look at your stuff and say, am I leaking money with expenses? And what's happening there? Is there taxes that I'm overpaying on? How about things with my money with retirement accounts? Could I be doing something better there and making more money there, or my savings that I have? Could I be saving more in insurance costs? Could I be saving more in the things that I have and just not seeing? What can I be doing to make more money even? Because you got to do both. You got to save on expenses and make more money. You got to do both, and that's where the freedom really happens, right? And so we look at that. And when you do that, you find out ways you can find free up cash. You can pay off debt faster. Wouldn't that be awesome? Be able to see which debts you can pay off and how to do it and do it differently, because I definitely teach it differently than other people do. how to get more organized with money, how to be just everything's organized. You have to worry about it. It's systematized. It's not that you ignore it. Don't get me wrong. It's not just about being easy here. Like, this is a simple solution, but you got to be committed to the success of it. You got to make sure you're managing it as a steward, but it doesn't have to take all day long to do it. Ways to make more money in your business, and then what myths are you buying into that maybe are costing you the most money? I'll tell you, one idea can make a big difference. As W. Clement Stone says, little hinges can swing big doors. Matt and Carrie, for them, one idea is $2,632 a month. And there's a reason why they're smiling really nice in that photo. It's a big thing. And so if you want the results of more money, more cash flow, you want more peace of mind, more confidence, be on the same page as your spouse or partner. I'll tell you this, outside of all the money, yeah, the average client's freed up $33,000 a year. But I'll tell you, one of my events last year, I had 3 couples all say almost the same thing. They said, yeah, Chris, we freed up $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 last year. But Chris, the biggest thing for us is that we were able to get together on the same page as a spouse. One couple said it actually saved our marriage. Another couple, they said, we've been married for 35 years and never talk. In fact, our kids now have their own kids. They've learned from our example. They knew that we never talked. And now we're talking for the first time in 35 years of marriage. That, Chris, see, money was great, but that was more than worth it. It was less stress and just a better quality of life. Isn't it about having a better quality of life and that freedom to be able to do what you want? So here's what I'm going to offer to you guys, is that Money Leak evaluation that says $297 for the first 5 people, and 5 people only, because really we're almost, right now, this time of year, we're almost at Christmas. Jeremiah, who's my consultant that does these, he's going to be booked up. And in fact, he's already kind of there. He's already kind of a little bit crazy. A couple of people have already taken advantage of this from the live webinar that we did of this. So there's really only about 3 spots left. If you want to take one of those spots, we'll actually waive the $297 fee. Now, even if you have to pay the $297, trust me, it's more than worth it. And even if it's not, if we can't find it, we refund the money back. No harm, no foul, no risk to you. But I'll tell you, if we can find stuff, I mean, worst case scenario, people usually walk away and say they got at least a few next steps to get them going. Some cases, people even become our clients. They say, we could find a lot more. And Jeremiah will say, if I can find stuff, Chris will find a lot more. And sometimes those people end up working with me as well. So if you'd like to take advantage of that Money Leak evaluation, email me, chris@moneyripples.com, right away. I tell you that we're almost at the end of the year, especially if you're worried about taxes. You got to do it like right now, or you're going to end up overpaying again into the next year, and I don't want to see that happen. So as a final word of thought, just remember, cash flow is what creates freedom, real freedom. Cash flow creates more options, more freedom, and that allows you to express the best of who you are, bless more lives, and just be happier. And that's really the goal of this, is to create that freedom and that happiness and that quality of life that you so deserve right now. Thanks, everyone. You guys have been great. We'll talk to you later.